This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, September 29th, and this is the AgYield War Room. Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. We'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets are December corn down 2 1/4 at 4.19 3/4. November soybeans were down 5 at 10.08 3/4. And December Chicago wheat was down a penny at 5.18 3/4. This morning, we had a couple of export sales announcements. 135,660 metric tons of corn to Mexico for 25. Also announced 110,668 metric tons of corn to unknown destinations, also for 25. Harvest keeps rolling along. Should be a good week, another good week of progress here, looking at the weather. We also, tomorrow, 11 o'clock Central, we'll get a USDA report. That'll be updated quarterly grain stock. So I know everybody has that on their mind. With that, Dustin, why don't you kick us off here with a few thoughts to get the week going, and then we'll throw around the room.
Yeah, Dan, thanks. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, how markets can hold up this week as you get, more and more bushels that'll be making their way to harvest. Still just looking at the math of it, I think could be a storage problem for corn. Starting off kind of, not anything too crazy overnight, but it's the definition of the gut slot of harvest is, there's more willing sellers at this time of year. And when we're talking about a record crop by 1 billion bushels, I still think that's the main thing on my mind. This week, we'll start that all-important harvest price discovery window for crop insurance. That's going to be something that is a time frame for especially firms like us that have been relying so heavily on insurance for many customers. It's a transition period where you want to make sure that you're measuring that handoff from insurance and deciding what kind of additional hedging is required after that. We have to take Farm Bill into account. But with that said, just pure market opinion, we're getting into that time frame of the year where it's traditionally quite weak, and we are still looking at too many corn acres. So,
and I think you got today, if I'm not mistaken, Dustin, is today or tomorrow is the last day to book MP in the MCO product. So definitely something to be visiting about there as well, right?
Yeah. So MCO, for those that are not aware, it's kind of like the eventual replacement of margin protection. It was a price discovery, ending, the last half of August, first half of September. So the sales closing date is September 30th, tomorrow, and it's a county-based rider. The MCO portion of it, it's a county-based option that covers margin on a county margin loss. So think of it as, it's both a revenue product and a cost product. So if the cost of DAP, potash, interest rates, diesel, interest rates are not part of this one, diesel is, change between now and April for the worse, then that's a margin decline. And if they change for the better, that's a margining improvement. And that helps change the trigger, positive or negative, for how those county-based policies come. This is the first policy, though, we've had with this high of a subsidy. So I think it's worth looking at for, if you're looking, especially if you're looking for ways to get early coverage where you're not actually having to pay for that coverage until you get into next year. It is one of those things, it's a bit unknown because you don't know where that cost structure is going to go or change between now and the spring. But still, it's a good thing for just added coverage in general.
Very good. And I think the takeaway there as well is I know everybody's super busy, but take a few minutes, give us a call. Let's visit about it and see if that's a decision that we need to be making here. We got a couple days to go. Justin, interesting to see there were sellers of corn and beans, the funds last week, and now they've shifted back to a short position in the bean market. So I guess what are your thoughts as we start the week?
Yeah, not much. I mean, obviously harvest is rolling pretty hard now, a lot of areas. So we're getting, clients that are 30-40% harvested, rolling pretty quick. So I think we're getting better and better information as we go out there. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Dustin. Just time of year, we had a 40-cent rally going right into harvest. Not surprising to see, I think the market kind of leak out here. Still seeing good demand. So I think we're kind of trying to, find that equilibrium here. To Dustin's point, a lot of bushels, no matter how you slice it, there's gonna be a lot of bushels that the market's got to digest here going through harvest. We've got the month of October is big for crop insurance. So you've got all these natural, these strikes that we've been talking about, these put strikes that are going to be expiring as we go through the month of October. And that's I think going to be a big market factor. Then there's going to be a lot of uncovered bushels, as you go through October. And how's the market going to handle that? What's the farmer going to do? How much hedging are we going to see? All those kinds of things. And then I think the stocks report is going to be interesting. We've 300 million bushel surprises one way or the other is not uncommon for this report. So I'm kind of looking into that. It's early Monday morning, so we'll get a lot more information from our clients on harvest progress. Our farm, for example, we're over half done on beans. Just have only done a couple fields on corn, so going hard on beans right now. And I think that we'll see a lot of information as we go through this week. So
very good. I guess just high level, looking at tomorrow's report, you mentioned you could see big swings. I think the foregone conclusion is you're going to see stocks numbers that are pretty well below last year's level.
I think there's probably some anticipation of maybe a bearish corn number. So I think a bullish number would be the surprise for corn, because the market didn't act like that. The spreads didn't act like we were tight at the end. So it'll be interesting. Maybe it's just the average guess as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see it personally. I mean, spreads acted kind of crummy for such a tight carry out. There was really no fireworks at the end. Some basis levels have popped a little bit here, but I think that's just because more time ran off the calendar, right? And people had to get some coverage before harvest pressure. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ultra bearish corn by any means, but I do think that you look at the rally that we had in some of these prices, all the things we've talked about here for weeks, where it is still a massive crop, and I think a lot of people are really hyper focused on it's, the yields coming down from the government number. And that's, looks like that could be very likely, but at the end of the day, is it really bullish from these prices or not? And I'm not so sure it is. So trying to be open-minded. We do have good demand, all those things, but we have giant demand numbers written down. I mean, we know all those things. So, it's not like a no-brainer to say corn's going a lot lower than here, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's obvious that we have to go a lot higher from here either. Sure. From what I'm seeing.
Ben, what's on your mind here this morning?
Big week with the stocks report. You look at corn, and everyone involved in the corn industry is making money except for the person who's making corn. So when you get into fall, how good of a job can the farmer do to keep corn off the market at this time of the year, right? Whether we've heard lots of big expansion in bagging, and I have some customers personally that have cleaned out some buildings in order to store corn on the ground, and you wonder where that equation comes in, because whether or not yield is 181 or 191, the amount of acres that we planted just creates a tremendous amount of volume. So I'm with Justin. I think it's going to be hard to go materially higher anytime soon. And you look back at how we broke from February, and at one point it was like 5 months to break 50 cents before we took that last leg lower. Uh, I would expect that on the flip side of that, without some sort of really meaningful trade deals being done, that the rally could be the exact same thing. Uh, People are going to use corn, they're going to buy corn. The rally probably turns into a real grind unless you get some massive surprise or a trade deal. Um, and maybe it's just a sideways clunker for a while. There's plenty of people that remember corn markets where they dial in at a certain price area and just kind of hang around there because we can't go a lot lower because the demand is good, and we can't go a lot higher because there's ample supply. And behind us, there's still the thought that there's some South American corn that needs to be exported. So I think we have to get somewhat prepared for maybe a grind, long, boring fall. So I hate to sound like Debbie Downer, but I think you need to see something material to get the markets, back up to insurance type of prices.
You guys rocking and rolling pretty good out by you, Ben?
Yeah, just, a lot of beans got ready early, so people have been focused on that. So far, I would say if I was going to shoot around the state, Indiana, it's a good corn crop. It's not as good as the last 2 years for most of my customers. There are some people that are having some really good crops, but I think it's fairly isolated. North Central Ohio, kind of northwest of Columbus, is having probably record yields, while 80 miles to the west, they're having really poor yields. Southwest Ohio, where there's a massive concentration of processing, I think it's going to be below average. And soybeans, surprisingly not bad considering the finish, but nowhere near records.
Very good. We'll move quickly here over to livestock. Ryland, we got lower cash the last 4 or 5 weeks. Cutout's been lower for about 3 weeks. Very choppy in the cattle markets, but then Secretary Rollins comes out this weekend and says that the border is going to be closed for the foreseeable future. So kind of a give and take here and a push and pull for the cattle market. And hogs carved out fresh highs on Friday on the heels of the hogs and pigs report. So why don't you share a few thoughts with us as we start the week?
Yeah, so after the confusion kind of last week, I think Rollins finally had to kind of address what was going on, with the border, and pretty much just said we're going to stay shut for the foreseeable future until we see Mexico take more steps to pretty much make sure that screwworm is not going to enter the U.S. and that it stops its northern progression. So I think that gave the market a little bit of pause. I think there's been a lot of talk about heifer retention, incentives for that, about what if screwworm gets to the U.S. You've had a lot of concern, and a lot of negative kind of price sentiment kind of baked into the market here. And meanwhile, cash and cutout, as you were saying, are still kind of weak. So it looked like that kind of paused, but generally, I think the sentiment's still a little bit on the negative side, with cash going into the tail end of this year, just for the time being, especially with beef falling so hard and abruptly. So overall, it's been a lot of headline trade. We'll see if we can find a little bit more support to kind of stabilize things, just because there's been a new headline, it feels like, every couple hours about the border and about heifer retention incentives, but not too much, I think. Likely not a lot to get done, I think, just in the interim. So I think that's going to cause a little bit of pause for today as well. On the hog side of things, yeah, hog and pig report definitely on the friendly side, maintained a lot of their gains from Friday, and it just seems like the overall sentiment here is that we're still tight. We're going to stay tight. The managed money wants to stay record long. We're going to fight every little downturn we see. And just from a production standpoint, things are still running slow. It's still relatively tight. So, the cold storage report pretty much said that pork stocks right now are at a 15-year low. So it seems like we're not really building those inventories at this point to really give us a lot of price relief in going into the third quarter for next year. So overall, just on the supply side, I think you've really baked in a lot of positive sentiment. So we'll see how much follow through we get. bit. I mean, cash was a little bit easier here, and but on the other hand, cutout was higher kind of going into the day. So got a little bit of a mixed bag. So we'll see if we're able to hold up. Generally, the trend should stay positive for the time being, but wouldn't be surprised to see a heavy setback at some point this week.
Very good, Ron. Appreciate the update there. A couple things to note. We'll get crop progress numbers out at 3 o'clock Central today. So we'll see how we're doing there in terms of crop progress. Also, quarterly grain stocks, as we've alluded to a number of times here, is going to be out tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Central. We'll have a bonus war room edition tomorrow at 11:15. We'll talk through the report and any major surprises or thereabouts for that report. Just coming into the open here, we'll get a quick readout. December corn down 2 1/4 now. 419.5 is the last. November soybeans are down 5 at 10.08 3/4. And December Chicago wheat's down 1/2 at 519 1/4. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to do so, and it'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Hope everybody has a great start to the week, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.